And we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good, man. Look. I spent about a half a damn second on a message board, and I spent about a half a second on Twitter. And the reason is because I don't want to blow one scrimmage, the first scrimmage in 100-degree heat at 12:30 in the afternoon. What is it? 3:30 in the afternoon, 12:30 in the afternoon. Whenever they started this damn scrimmage, I don't want to blow it up. One question, and this is kind of the question that I kind of asked myself when I was picking up groceries a while ago at HEB, and I was like, why did Sark hire Pete Witkowski, man? That's the question. Why did he hire him? And the reason is he said it, right? Because he's going to show him things now that's going to prepare that offense to be at their best when the season starts, man. And it all comes down to that he needs to that one, Sark's coming from a championship program where he's not going to expect nothing but the best, right? He's not going to settle, and he's not going to coach speak. He's going to tell you exactly the way it sees it, which I enjoy, because I'd rather hear it now that, hey, my quarterbacks aren't playing to where they should be at, after he came out, 3 days ago and said, you know what, we have two, quarterbacks that could both start for this program. Your thoughts, Jeremy?
I don't take blood pressure medications, but me and Clint got on air talking to each other about 10 minutes before this program started. And my blood pressure is probably 160 over 120 right now. The one thing I took out of the press conference is our preparation didn't meet our production. And what he was talking about in that quarterback room was these guys had prepared all week and they looked really, really good in practice up until the scrimmage, but their preparation didn't meet the product on the football field. But I'll say this, and I've said it over and over and over again in the springtime, for one unit to do well is for another unit not to do well. So if your offensive line is getting beat, they're getting beat by your defensive line. If your running backs can't get open, they're getting covered by your linebackers. And the same thing with the wide receiver, being able to get open and make catches. Your defensive backs must be covering them very, very well. So that's what I took out of it. 2 or 3 things that he said. Our defense is ahead of our offense. We know that's always the case in the first week of practice. They had 2 padded practices before they scrimmaged. Number 2, take care of the ball. Don't allow your preparation to meet your product. Number 3, he's happy with the defensive backs, which is what we talked about in our last podcast, was probably the weakest link on this football team. We were the 109th ranked pass defense in the country. Nice to know that he thinks that area is shored up. And you said it very, very well, Clint. You said this man just left the national championship football team. He knows what that product is supposed to look like, what that linebacker core is supposed to look like, what that secondary is supposed to look like, what that wide receiver core is supposed to look like. And he said it's not up to snuff. But guess what, kids? We're not Alabama. That's the whole truth. And he's going to tell you the truth because he wants his kids to hear. Clint said it perfectly. You want to tell him what you said before this?
About what? We talked about a whole bunch of things. I think the biggest thing is, again, he's not going to, when it comes to the quarterback, man, because I know that Dorian Johnson's on here. Glad you're on here, Dorian, Hogan brother. Quarterbacks didn't separate. To me, when it comes to a quarterback, I don't give a damn if it's going to be Hudson Card or if it's Casey Thompson. At the end of the day, I don't care. I look at it like this, man. You got a quarterback whisperer in Steve Sarkisian, because I think a lot of where this comes from is that they felt like that the quarterbacks couldn't run the system today, or they were having a hard time making throws, or they just didn't have it's hard to put a picture around something you didn't have an opportunity to see and you only hear. I think that's where a lot of people come out and they say, well, you know what? I'm listening to all these message boards, and this is what I'm getting bits and pieces from, who may not been there, who's there. And, the difference between throwing 3 interceptions to Sark saying he only threw 1 interception. Well, them other 2 interceptions might have not been his fault. You had a wide receiver that probably ran the wrong route, or you had somebody tip it at the line, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, when we look at Hudson Card and we look at Casey Thompson and where they're at right now, where they may have not separated themselves, I have to give a vote of confidence to someone that's been a quarterback whisperer at 2 programs that have won national championships at USC and Alabama and done his thing with quarterbacks. So it doesn't matter who starts for me when it comes September 4th. But at the end of the day, he's going to make sure that he drills into these guys, and these guys can run his offense before he lets them touch the ground on September 4th against Louisiana.
Yeah, like you said, I don't care which of these 2 quarterbacks wins this job. as long as when September 4th rolls around, the rest of the team has confidence that that guy's going to lead them to beating Louisiana and then on to Arkansas and game after game. And like you said, he's proved time and time again that he knows which buttons to push and he knows how to get the most out of these quarterbacks. And he's not going to settle. He said it. I'm not going to settle for less than championship level. He used other terminology, but he knows what a championship level quarterback looks like. He knows what a championship receiving corps looks like, and he's not going to sugarcoat it to make us feel better. He's going to say, yes, my defensive backs played good. Yes, my linebackers played good. Yes, I feel like I've got 8 or 9 guys that I can, on a hot day on September 4th against Louisiana, bring in and bring out, whether it's Coburn, Ajomo, Jones, and Gofu, and all these guys that we brought over in the transfer portal with the guys we already have, like the Collins and the Broughton and the kid like Murphy, that we have enough guys that we can rotate in against Louisiana to stay fresh on a hot day in September. So that's what I took out of it. And then, like I said, somebody's going to get chosen, and by my count, somebody's going to get chosen around next Saturday because he said, I want to make a choice 2 weeks prior to Louisiana. Well, next week is Saturday. It's 2 weeks prior to Louisiana. And so I just feel like that the woe is me. Again, just remember that for one unit to be doing bad, the other one has to be doing good. And I'm excited for the football season. And like folks are saying here, I'm excited not to be sugar-coated. We had a great practice. No people are going to be accountable for not having a good practice or a good scrimmage.
Yeah. So Scott Sheridan puts up here, when he speaks high praise of the quarterbacks, that will speak volumes. Absolutely. Because he's going to tell you exactly what is on his mind. It's not like, okay, hey, they went out here and they did this and it was kind of average or whatever the case may be. No, they didn't hit the standard in which he was looking at today. Neither one of them did. So y'all keep talking about, well, there's some separation between Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. Absolutely the hell not. Because it just like he's going to tell you that 2 guys didn't, go out there and meet his standards. He's gonna when he makes a decision, he's gonna make a decision. You'll know exactly who separated themselves. He's not gonna just wait all the way until the end to make a decision. Absolutely not. If he knew today who his quarterback was, he was going to tell you. He would tell you who his quarterback was. But he has not made a decision, so obviously the separation is not there. It goes back to well, if he throws it, I think who is it here, Working Man. So hey, Scott Sheraton, appreciate the super chat, man. Always on that, man. So we appreciate you always, man. And hook them. Go up here.
I have a thought. I have a quick thought, real quick. So somebody asked Sark, and it was a brilliant question. Did you allow PK, or did you ask PK to put your quarterbacks in certain pressure situations so that you could see somebody separate himself? And he said, absolutely not. I put them with the play calling that I called in the scrimmage, put them in those pressure situations that I was looking for answers to. So he is so smart. Like I said, like we have a second level coaching staff, like I said, who understands how to get the most out of their players. And I thought that was really brilliant. Did you give PK the game plan so he could game plan to put pressure on the quarterbacks? He said, no, I picked the plays that I thought would be able to separate them. And unfortunately, like he said, their preparation, they had a great week of practice. But again, there was 2 padded practices before the scrimmage. Had a great week of preparation. It just didn't carry over to the scrimmage.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, too, is you'd rather find out now. Again, he's talking about these training wheels, right? So if you had an opportunity to listen to his press conference, he was like, let me find the quote here about these whole training wheel situation. He said, we take the training wheels off early. We force them to ride a bike, meaning that, hey, we're going to throw everything at them. Why wait until the 3rd week to throw everything at them and then figure out they can't do it come September 4th? Let's do everything. Let's throw everything now. Let's take the training wheels off, allow them to ride the bike, figure out where they're at from a scheme standpoint. Offense on the offense of the ball, so that, hey, come September 4th, if we still have a weakness, at least I have time to be able to cover that weakness going into Louisiana and game plan away from our weaknesses into our strengths. So to me, again, like Jeremy said, man, this coaching staff, you can tell that the thinking is way different than we were last year and held the last 3, 4, 5 years with this coaching staff, which makes me really, really excited.
And again, the training wheels, like you said, the game plan is not going to be based around Hudson Carter, Casey Thompson, whoever wins this job. The game plan is going to be based around Bijan Robinson. And so, like you said, he's got to understand the plays that he feels they can make. And I did, Mike, I got that from my wife, too, who's producing in the other room, that said my mic's having issues. I don't know exactly what's going on. We did a podcast taping yesterday, so may have messed with some functions, but I apologize for that. We'll try to get to the bottom of my mic issues. But understanding, like you said, the training wheels come off now, so he can understand the game plan and the throws they can make when the season really starts. Is what he's looking to get.
Went through some of these comments here. Yeah. So Carson Smith, this is a good one for you. He's asking if we're going to go to open practice on Wednesday. Unfortunately, full-time jobs, man. I'll be in Houston on Monday, coming in Tuesday, and then I got a train in the Corpus Christi area on Wednesday. So I definitely won't be here in the Austin area for that game. But it's crazy because everybody's talking about how bad the team's going to be, but they invite you to come watch the team on Wednesday in an open practice, which I can't remember the last time a coaching staff actually opened up a fall camp for players to actually come watch it. Maybe you may be able to think of some time when that happened, but obviously they want you to come out and watch these guys play. But yeah, it's open practice on Wednesday. I think it's $5 beers, if I'm not mistaken, too, as well. So really, really excited about that.
No, I actually have a long weekend next weekend, but it doesn't start until Friday. So probably won't make it down to Austin, like Clint said, full-time job in the U.S. military. Love to. Had we had prior notice, we may have made it down there, but yeah, unfortunately not going to make it down there.
So George Dackhill has a question here. When do you guys or anybody else in the media ask questions about 44 Tyler Owens? So George, I'm assuming you've been here before. We're not media guys, so there's no way that we'd be able to ask a question about Tyler Owens to anyone. But we do discuss Tyler Owens on here and what his status is and where he plays. And I can tell you that we talked on multiple situations on multiple platforms that we believe he should follow DeMarvion Overshown to that outside linebacker position that currently DeMarvion's playing just based on his sure size speed combination. Especially if he can't find himself in a situation where it sounds like they're trying to find the best five guys. As far as the defensive back goes, and it sounds like Anthony Cook's kind of played himself into a starting position at this particular point. Sounds like Brendan Schooler's doing his thing. Sounds like Jameson's doing his thing. And then I know during the press conference, I thought he brought up BJ Foster as well. So we'll kind of see where it lines itself out. Obviously, as the scrimmages get closer, but he sounds like he's really, really amped up about this defense. So I wish we could ask about Tyler Owens, but unfortunately, we don't have the credentials to do so.
All right, that should have fixed it. Cody Phillips hit the producer up. He said, check the mic source. I guess I was actually working on my laptop over here that's to the right of me, so it should get better, I hope. Let me know.
Yeah. So it is free Wednesday. Domestic beers are $5 for anybody that's going to go to the open practice on Wednesday. Yes, Jeremy.
If I could, I wanted to hit the Tyler Owens, but I was a little distracted with the microphone issues. Hopefully, like I said, I got it fixed. I was working on my laptop, unfortunately, but not my Yeti that's in front of my face. So hopefully that fixed it. Cody says it's working now, so that makes me feel better. But yeah, Tyler Owens is, like you said, he was one of my guys in the 19 class, probably my favorite guy to Plano East. And again, him and Marcus Tillman were the first guy down. We've talked about this multiple times as freshmen on kickoff team with that 10-3 speed that he talked about. But I've always thought his natural progression, because of his height, was to drop him down in the linebacker core as like Clint just said, DeMarvion Overshown's understudy. DeMarvion has a job now, and he teaches 44 how to do it over the next couple of years, and he takes that job when DeMarvion goes. But yeah, you got to find a way to those 85 guys on scholarship, and we talked about it in a video that's coming up a little bit later. I took 85 scholarships, and I walked across, and I said I got 22 positions across the starting, offense and defense, which means I got 3.2 scholarships per position, essentially. And we talked about running backs, but the position we really talked about was tight end, and the depth at tight end. When you talk about, Cade Brewer, down to Jared Wiley, and all the way down to Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis with Tavian Sanders and those guys in between. But basically 6 scholarships at the tight end position. So I say that to say this, that you have 85 precious scholarships, and you want all those 85 guys to be productive. And Tyler Owens is one of those guys who's a high 4-star, 5-star guy, composite 5-star with 247 that hasn't been productive. And people get on us sometimes when we call spade to spade, kind of like what Steve Sarkisian did today. But he's a guy you got to figure out how you can get the most out of Tyler Owens. To make a long story short, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Tyler Owens.
Yeah, biggest thing is, man, I can tell you that it's funny because I was telling Jeremy, I was like, damn, I really don't. We start doing these lives, just wait until Saturday afternoon's postgame show. Those get really, really, really fired up. And for those that didn't have an opportunity, we actually did a collaboration with Fire the Cannon on the Fire Cannon podcast, man, and that was crazy, man. We were on Zoom. It sounds a lot better. Rocky did a fantastic job trying to cleaning that thing up, man, because you'd have been on Zoom with us five in Fancy Boots Half-Pro and Rocky and me and Jeremy. That was crazy as hell, man. But the passion is strong around the program, and I think sometimes the passion with the fans to get it really, really excited over a scrimmage sometimes makes me nervous, especially when we come on to do these shows, because I can tell you, come Louisiana, that's when our 12 week starts. That's when I have to start taking a double dose of blood pressure medication, because I know I'm probably going to tell Jeremy that I'm probably going to quit 3 or 4 times during the season. And I'm never going to quit, but it's one of those things where you got to get out here, and we're frustrated, especially during the season. I'm not going to get frustrated about a scrimmage, one scrimmage during fall camp, when, like Jeremy said, there's a good chance that the defense is going to be on top of the offense. And that's the way it usually works. And they get kind of closer as you get towards the end of it. I was going up here to look for one of Dorian's comments, and he did bring up a good point. I really don't want to get up too much into the quarterback talk, but he said, Dorian here, yeah, me and my pops have been pulling for Casey. However, if you can't separate this late in the game, it's probably assigned towards Card. Witt looked good at wide receiver, and they're going to know because they're probably at the fall game today. Witt looked good at wide receivers. Running backs did well when they had room to breathe. But then he followed it up with another comment about that interior defensive line, which is a monster, man. And we during that deal, I think we did the front seven. With those transfers, with those linebackers, with those defensive linemen, I'm telling you, you have a chance to probably have one of the best defensive line fronts in all of college football on the 40 acres right now, man. I really do. So to me, when you're looking at how the offensive line plays versus the defensive line, you're probably giving the offensive line probably one of the better looks they're going to get from a defensive line before they even get into the season. So again, iron sharpens iron. I know that Kyle Flood's going to work his issues out with the offensive line, so we can lean on Bijan, throughout the season.
And you and Dorian know that when we talk about complementary football, we're normally talking about the offense and the defense feeding each other, right? But that same thing happens on the offensive side of football. If you can't make the throws and the completions to your wide receivers, then they could key on Bijan and Roschon and Keelan and those guys out of the backfield. So that's probably what it's talking about, the inability to breathe, is that at a certain point, if Josh Thompson or Deshaun Jameson or Jahdae Barron or Keaton Crawford are locking guys down on the outside, then they don't have anything to worry about. So they could stack the box, just as you know, and make a great player like Bijan, Roschon, and Keelan literally ineffective. So that's the piece that we got to get fixed, is that we got to establish the running game. The running game has to produce completions and opportunities that both Casey and Hudson can take advantage of. Like you said, that preparation needs to meet the product. And Stephen Nagati, a good friend of ours from Fanatic Perspective, calls it all the time. He said product launch, all this talk that we're doing is exactly what he's been talking about for about 2 months now. All this stuff doesn't matter until on 9/4/21, until we take the field against Louisiana for that product launch. All this all gas, no brakes. This unit's not doing well. This unit's doing great. Really means nothing until 9/4/21 at approximately 2:30 in the afternoon when we start playing somebody else. But again, iron sharpens iron. Hopefully that defensive line and their depth will then feed that offensive line, challenge that offensive line, and Kyle Flood's group could get better for it.
Yeah, and Cody Phillips brings up a good point here. He's like, have you guys looked into the catches of Alabama receivers last year? I think further down, he actually tells us that between Waddle and, I think between two wide receivers, between Smith and Waddle, they combined for almost 200 catches, more than our top 5 combined. That's what you need. You do 2 consistent wide receivers. But again, don't forget about those tight ends, man. I'm telling you, me and Jeremy did our preview on the tight ends today. And to me, you probably, and it's still, until you start going through it, and again, you need to see really consistency matters, man. Consistency. Once you start seeing consistency out of these tight ends, in K. Brewer and Jared Wiley, but the guys that are behind them, and he said it today. Sark said it today. I feel really good about this tight end room. And Jatavian Sanders, and the list goes on, man. But outside of the wide receivers, I think you put some defenses in situations where you have an opportunity to get mismatches against your tight end. So really it's getting a combination of maybe Whittington or Worthy or more. And then, using your tight ends the way you need to, and then taking and having to push those defensive backs back, because again, if you're putting 8 in the box, it's going to be hard to run on anybody. But I think what you're trying to do is run to set up the pass, but sometimes you got to do it opposite.
And that's kind of why I popped up this comment from Jeremy Weisberg is, are you surprised the receivers are having so many issues? I'm really not. Like when we talked about our wide receiver podcast that we published, I think just this week. No, defensive backs just this week. But Whittington is a converted running back who had 1 year of experience during a COVID year, and he was often injured. You had Troy O'Meara, who's coming off an ACL injury. You have Joshua Moore, who's has been a shoulder problem right now, and you have Xavier Worthy, who is a true freshman. Like many position groups on this Texas football team, you have talent. Yes, you have a 4- and 5-star recruit, but you had limited production from any of these guys other than Joshua Moore. And again, he's injured now with the shoulder, so it doesn't surprise me when you have seniors like Josh Thompson and Deshaun Jameson, who've been in the program for 5 years now, 4 and 5 years sequentially, locking them down. I'm not surprised because, again, Amir's not back to full strength. Whittington's, again, trying to get over. I mean, his body's changed, but he's still trying to learn a position. And then you got a true freshman, and you got a guy who's has a shoulder problem right now. So I'm not really surprised by what we currently have, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but what makes me feel better is that, again, it comes down to, should we be concerned? I think the thumbnail on the live says questions or concerns. Should we be concerned about the wide receiver group right now? A little bit. I'm going to say a little bit. And the reason I say a little bit is because what Jeremy's talking about. It's a little bit because I know that Steve Sarkisian can find ways to scheme guys open during football games. And again, it's about scheming guys open. So is the concern there a little bit? Yeah. They have a couple more weeks in fall camp to figure out who their starting quarterback is going to be and so on and so forth? Yes. But at the end of the day, I'm not surprised they're having really issues, but at the same time, I think they're fixable issues with time. And then somebody asked a question. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Can I just plug us real quick while you pull that up? There's 94 folks in here. I can't see the number of likes because we're running off StreamYard now. Normally, I can see how many likes are in the like column. Please hit that like button. I have seen several new names in attendance. Again, we got Scott Sheridan here, Working Man, Johnny Munoz, a lot of guys that we normally see. But A.A. McKay, I don't know if I've seen you before. Shannon McNeese 10, I'm not sure I've seen you before. Welcome to the program. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Again, we are fully loaded with TPPN, and we've got podcasts that should be coming out sometime this week. So we're fired up and ready for this football season. This is not my normal color. My normal color is like pale white, but got my blood pressure up after the scrimmage today. and yeah, 16 likes on 94 viewers. Johnny Munoz, we got to get that up. But thank you for attending.
Yeah, absolutely. Wes Beard, do you think the defense and Bijan Robinson can carry us a little until we get better quarterback play? I don't think it has anything with better quarterback play. I think what you need to do, or what we need to do, is probably have a quarterback that can manage the offense with the talent they currently have and play obviously complementary football with your defense. I don't think you ever want to just rely on your defense. Hell, I think we had a defense in 2018? Was it 2017? No, 2018, 19, 17. We had a really, really, really good defense, but our offense couldn't score. It's like every time we get down.
It was Orlando's first defense.
First defense, right? Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was still in Hawaii. Yeah, no, I was still in Hawaii. Yeah, it was 2017. It was Todd Orlando's first defense with Tom Herman. But yeah, they stud defense. But you got, again, complementary football. You got to find a way to put points on the board. And I truly believe, like Clint said, that Steve Sarkisian is going to scheme this team open. Like I said, I just worry about the shoulders. I worry about the knees. I worry about the conversion. Not that they're not great football players and have great talent. It's just I worry about those ankle biters and those things that they can't control, like a shoulder injury or being up to top speed because you're still worried about your ACL. I am worried about Troy O'Meara, and I'd said this on the Fire the Cannon podcast because, again, he was my breakout player 6 weeks ago. We did our breakout players because of all the things you had heard last fall, and you got the coach saying he's not coming back with the same fire. I don't know if he trusted his injuries healed. That's words from the coach. So I need him to get over that mental thing, if it's truly a mental thing. But he's a hell of an athlete. We saw his body next to DeAndre Hopkins a couple of weeks ago. We know he's ready. He's just got to trust himself. And we don't know what kind of throws, again, that are made. We're not there. I don't think there was any media allowed to the scrimmage today. So we're kind of left with sources, whether they're players, whether they're coaches, whether they're trainers, whether they're media or folks that are tied to the football team to give us this stuff. Because I don't believe anybody from the team has talked other than Coach Sarkisian. So I don't know that the ball was placed on a dime to Troy O'Meara to be able to make a catch. I don't know that the throw was being, that like you said, that the balls weren't batted down continuously by Keandre Coburn or Moro Joma and those guys. But fired up. And then Scott coming in with another $10.
What's another super chat, man? Scott Sheridan says, my wife likes you guys. This is from her. Keep the wife happy. Happy wife, happy life. I can tell you that my wife said, hey, she get up. I'm telling you, our life revolves around that too, Scott, man. Jeremy's out there cutting grass with his wife earlier. My daughter's, starting school on Monday, so I'm out and about with my wife today. So it's funny because me and Jeremy actually we'll get up like early Saturday morning before everything happens, and we start really recording content. We're kind of giving everything away and how we do it. Again, we're not professionals by any sort of imagine. Too, we got really busy jobs that keep us really busy. So we have to try to find time in between the things that we're doing just to be able to get content. And this last week has been really busy. Go ahead, Jeremy.
And I do want to apologize for something that Clint is kind of alluding to last week, is we did have Nick Harris scheduled to come on Monday. But again, you guys know that we're both in the medical field, and you understand that COVID is really taking an uptick across our state and across the country right now. So there sometimes are things that are out of our control that make us work a little later, and we never want to come into an interview, especially with the guy that we've invited on our show, and not be prepared. So that was the reason for not having Nick on last Monday. We've scheduled Nick again for this Monday. But there's always, when we don't do this full time, there's always things that could pull us away or grab our attention that are important to us that we need to handle. And that's the justification. I'm not making an excuse. That's just the rationale for last Monday's decision.
Yeah, and again, I can tell you that me and Jeremy, like Jeremy, said a while ago, we've obviously joined a network, kind of pushed that out to Twitter this week. It's called the Pigskin Podcast Network. It's actually going to go live September 1st, but they've given us really all the tools we need to start putting out content. Now, we actually did our introduction, which we thought was really cool. Love for you guys to get, I think right now it's in a process where once you put one podcast in there, all the podcasting apps have to kind of pick it up. Not sure how it works. I know every once in a while I'll go over there to see if it's kind of on Spotify, because I'd love to put a link on our Twitter to Spotify, just so everybody can kind of get introduced to the program over there as well. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to continue to do stuff, the stuff that we do over here, lives, post-game shows, probably a couple of shows that, like the pressers that Steve Sarkisian did today over here. And then we'll probably do shows that are different over there, just so you have an opportunity to not just see us on YouTube, but hey, get on app or get on Google Podcast or get on Spotify, whatever really, whatever podcast platform you use, that you don't have to, you can put it on you can watch as hell on here, and then you pause it on here, and then you go in the car and you can put it on your Spotify and then finish up the show if you want to do it that way as well. So we're really excited.
So I do want to shout out Rob Midfield. He said, I liked and subscribed. Yeah, let us know if you're new to the channel and you hit the like button and subscribe button. We definitely want to acknowledge you. But I pulled up George Stacklin. It's kind of, I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to tell you that we just did this morning, and we talked about just this thing. Since our tight end room is so loaded, why not put Sanders in the slot, rotating with Winnington? We absolutely need a reliable, guaranteed pass catcher on the field for our quarterbacks. And we talked about this. We talked about him. We talked about, help me out, the kid out of Fort Worth, Juan Harris. Juan Harris kind of reminds me of LJ Humphrey, that body type. So I see him being a big slot, a guy like Sanders being a big slot. And then, of course, Jared Wiley's 6'7". Like, putting those guys in slot positions. And I definitely think you're going to see, and we talk about this, I don't want to spoil both podcasts, but 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. You could see if Sanders is 6'4", 256 already. Cade Brewer is 6'4" and 270 pounds. And then you got Roschon and Bijan in the backfield. You can see a lot of 22. And we talk about that. Like I said, I don't want to spoil the tight ends piece, but we have talked about it. And yes, it is something that if I was the offensive coordinator, I would definitely look into. Excuse me.
2 running backs, 2 tight ends. You're going to see it on the field. You are absolutely going to see it. And you may see it a lot, especially, again, you got a coach. You got a coach that's not going to stick to the binder. You got a coach that's not going to stick to a game plan that doesn't change. You're not going to have a coach that's going to use the same game plan against different defenses every game. I think that's what y'all take away from this, right? Is that Steve Sarkisian, if it's Iowa State and Iowa State he knows Iowa State's going to give him a look, he's going to change his offense around to be able. That's why he says he puts so much into that playbook. It's not just one type of offense in that playbook. It's a whole bunch of offenses in one playbook. So that at the end of the day, it keeps these defensive coordinators guessing about what he's going to run from week to week to week. But at the same time, he's not putting him in a situation where he can't change the scheme each week based on the defense he's playing. And I think that's where you may see 2 tight ends, 2 running backs hit on multiple games, and that's what you're running until they stop the run and then start bringing people up in the box. Then you start having mismatches with tight ends that are running down the damn seam. So absolutely, man, it's Juan Davis. Juan Davis, man, is like Jeremy said, is LJ Humphreys 2.0, big guy that you can actually swing out, as a tight end, split out like a wide receiver and cause matchup nightmares.
Yeah, he's living as a flex tight end at 6'4", 223. I'm not having him as the inline tight end. He's not on the line of scrimmage trying to knock down defensive ends and outside linebackers. He is my jumbo slot guy. He is my LJ Humphrey. He will be a flex tight end from now until probably his sophomore year. He was an early enrollee, so he was in the weight room this summer. But I want one more year to see what Juan Davis could do. And right now he's my big slot. Tracy Jackson, we'll go back to quarterbacks real quick, Tracy, because I haven't seen you before. So we do want to acknowledge you and answer your question. Have you guys talked about the quarterback situation? Sark said both passers aren't where they should be, even if it's the first practice of the season. And I'll take it, Clint, because you've already said it. Going back to Matt Leinart, Matt Castle, and all the guys that Steve Sarkisian's coach in the quarterback room, his level of comfort and let me help. Let me try to find the word that he believes a quarterback should be playing. He said it. I'm going to be tough on them. Like, I understand what a championship level quarterback looks like, and I'm not going to come in here in this media room and sell you a bill of goods. It's not true. So yeah, we've talked about it, and they aren't where they should be. And again, I think he's the kind of coach that's going to tell them that, and they're going to learn from that, and they're going to get better. And kind of, Tracy, what we talked about just a little bit earlier, is somebody asked Sark today in the press, or hey, did you tell PK or did you game PK up to challenge your quarterbacks? And he said, no, I established a game plan that was going to challenge my quarterbacks. So he was going to make them find themselves in tough throws, make them make decisions at the line of scrimmage to understand coverage and go through their progressions and make tough decisions. And again, we weren't there. We don't know the throws they made. We don't know if the receivers were dropping the ball. We don't know if they were overthrowing them. We don't know if the balls were getting tipped. We don't know if they were under duress and running from sideline to sideline trying to get these throws off. None of us were there. So yeah, I appreciate the question, but you got a great quarterback guru who's responsible for these 2 kids, and I think they're going to get there.
Yeah, I think they're going to get there too. I think they are there during practice, but they can't take it. They didn't take it from the practice to the field. That's what it really was. He talked, man. We got 2. It's made his decision. This is the hardest decision he's ever had to make. That's how close these guys are. You're right. As a head coach, trying to figure out what quarterback to pick, and he's had a lot of quarterback situations. You go back to Alabama and Bryce Young and Mac Jones last year. Then you go back to all the way back to the USC days where he had to choose between 3 quarterbacks and a national championship quarterback. And a guy that should have started but didn't start, they wind up going to the NFL because they showed that he could be an NFL quarterback. So if there's one person I trust when it comes to be able to pick a quarterback and get these quarterbacks ready, for each game week to week, it's definitely Steve Sarkisian. So I'm not going to say that I don't think they're that he said they're not there, because if you go back a couple of days to another interview, he talks about, they're starting to figure it out. They're not looking so robotic. It's really getting them to take what they're doing in practice and related to how they're playing on the football field when they got, 11 defensive guys in pads standing in front of them. That's
exactly what he said. He said their preparation did not meet the performance. They prepared all week and they played well all week and they practiced all week and they were in the film. They just didn't perform today. Wes, I appreciate this question. I appreciate this comment. And I want to go back to Colorado and I want to go back to Kansas State because this same offensive line, Jones, Engelau, Majors, Okafor, and Kerstetter for the first half of Kansas State dominated. I just want to, in this particular circumstance, credit the defensive line that Coach Sarkisian talked about today that he feels is 8, 9, 10 guys deep. It's a hot day. The offensive line doesn't come off the field when it's 97 degrees at 2:30 in the afternoon in Austin, Texas. But guess what? The defensive line does. So I would like to think that maybe it was substitutions that tested them. And he talked about he didn't feel like it was a physical problem with the Heat. He felt like it was a mental thing, like getting over, being tired or being pushed. But I just would hope that you would go back to Colorado and understand that Kyle Flood is a hell of a lot better than Herb Hand at figuring this thing out, and that maybe some credit should go to the defensive line in this particular circumstance.
I think absolutely. I think the defensive line, again, when we look back at the end of the year, and me and Jeremy are defensive guys. When we look back at the end of the year, I'm gonna tell you what, that defensive line, again, they were last year. They were the second best second best rushing defense in the Big 12.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the problem is you had a ninth ranked defensive back room in the Big 12, which was 108th in the country. So I think when you look at the defensive line from a defensive line standpoint, and the only thing they've done is add depth. If you're talking about that front seven, in Ovio Gofu and Ray Thornton and Ben Davis and Byron Murphy is a true freshman that is me and Jeremy. If he was 2 inches taller coming out of high school last year, he's probably a five-star recruit with 2 inches on him. Byron Murphy. That's how good that kid is. But at the same time, again, let's go back, 3 or 4 days. They were talking about, damn, we feel like we got 7 or 8 guys on this offensive line. When's the last time we had 7 or 8 guys we think we could rotate through the offensive line? And guys that probably could start at a lot of programs in Andre Carrick, thinking about moving Junior Engelau to center to allow, another guy to come in at guard. So I think just like Jeremy said, give the defensive line some credit today on how they did it, but also look at the fact that your offensive line is probably one of the best defensive lines they're going to probably see this year.
And I'm going to get after Marco just a little bit because he's got to understand that 2/3 of this offensive or 2/5 of this offensive line that he's talking about were Under Armour All-Americans and All-America game participants. That's number one. They're not 2- and 3-star recruits. Number two, guys that back them up like Isaiah Hookfin and Tyler Johnson were 4- and 5-star recruits that haven't won the job. Tyler Johnson is currently sitting third team behind a brand new freshman in Hayden Connor. So in my mind, the problem's not with the front 5. If you want to talk 2- and 3-star recruits, the problem's with the 4- and 5-stars that are sitting behind that haven't pushed them to take their jobs. That's just my thoughts on the 2- and 3-star recruits that are currently manning this offensive line, because I think they did a hell of a job, again, against Kansas State and Colorado the last 2 times I've seen them. And again, Jake Majors and Junior Engelau were Under Armour All-Americans. So that's just not the case, Marco.
Yeah, I think, again, it's again, if you're guys that are obviously are lesser ranked than the guys that are behind them, obviously they're doing something to be able to play. That's the way I look at it, and it comes down to development. Are we developing these guys? He brings up a good point. You got a 4-star, damn near 5-star that's sitting back there. And at this particular point, it looks like they're on the third team on the offensive line. Is that a bad thing or is it a good thing? Honestly, you know what I'm saying? Or are the guys that are currently playing, which have a lot of experience? Hell, you got what? 5th-year seniors, 6-year seniors that are currently on the line. Guys like Kerstetter was probably, I think, ranked, if you're looking at Pro Football Focus, would have been 2 years ago. 2 years ago was the best number one right tackle in all of college football when it came to pass blocking. So I'm not going to beat up the offensive line that much. I can tell you that this defensive line is going to give these guys an opportunity to improve over the next couple of weeks so they can prepare themselves, for the season.
So again, I'll put this up here. And then I'll follow up with this one. You know, low star players can be productive. Again, Texas has put Sam Cosmi and Connor Williams into the draft. The last 2 offensive linemen drafted, and they weren't high 5-star recruits. Just notes. And then I'm going to pop this one up real quick for Jeremy. Jeremy, you can only play who you play. Kansas State and Colorado were not good defense, so take the offensive line performance with a grain of salt. Again, what was the average? 19.1 yards per carry against Kansas State. Again, like you said, they weren't great run defenses, but you can only play who you play. And I'm not going to take wins off the board, and I'm not going to discount great performances. And that was an all-time great performance for the Texas running game for both Bijan and the school. So again, if you're gonna talk the other way, you got to be able to accept when you do very, very well. So just my thoughts.
I got another one here. Max Snell, no 2 stars in the offensive line room. There's not a lot of 2 stars out there, to be honest with you. You're either a 3-star or you're not ranked at all. We'll get to that one here in a minute. I like these. Marco Garcia, it's a problem when OU getting the big names on the line. We keep striking out, but I'll give you that some of it will be developed. But again, some of these guys that they had at OU are now, they've had to get transfers to come in from Tennessee to fill the slots because either their guys have transferred out or no longer playing anymore. So it's give and take. If we're looking at it, I will pick our defensive line over their offensive line, Oklahoma's offensive line, as I see it today. So, because they obviously have to fix them. They have some pieces that they have to kind of include in now. And hell, I don't think Wanya Morris, last time I checked, and I would have to, I'm just kind of speaking here, and somebody may correct me, but the last time I checked, I don't even think he was I don't think he was eligible to play this year. So,
Scott, I hope you're right, because that'd be the first All-American that we've ever interviewed with Hayden Conner. Hayden Conner will be an All-American before he leaves. He's so smart and so big. I don't put anything past Hayden. I know his work ethic and how hard he works and how smart he is. And I'm not surprised that he's already found himself on the 2 deep as a true freshman. That's just the kind of caliber of athlete he is.
What we got here?
I'm going to go with this one. We've already talked it. Horns up. You may have come to the show just a little bit late. When everybody's worried about the wide receiver performance today, again, I'm worried about their health too. That's the main reason why I'm worried about the wide receiver production. Again, we're talking about shoulder injury for Joshua Moore. We were talking about, Troy O'Meary coming off the ACL and not comfortable on it yet. As the coach was saying, he thinks it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing. But yes, I'm absolutely worried about the things that they can't control themselves, like injuries. And then again, Jordan Whittington, moving back from the running back room to wide receiver last year, but often injured, didn't get a whole lot of snaps as a wide receiver last year. So again, unproven, unproductive, and then Xavier Worthy, a brand new true freshman. So I've walked the 4 deep across the wide receiver room, and why I'm worried about him as well. But again, we're not playing a football game today. That shoulder could get healed. Troy O'Meary can find his confidence, and Xavier Worthy again can understand what it's going to take, because everybody's talking about him. Like Clint said the other day, I'm not sure exactly what video it was. I was with the podcast with the Fire the Cannon ladies over there. When you got the writers, the players, and the coaches saying the same thing about a kid, generally they're right on the money. And everybody's impressed with Xavier Worthy's work ethic and how he's making plays. So I'm worried about it a little bit too, but on my worry meter of 1 to 10, it's probably about a 5 right now. But it's definitely creeping up as we get closer to September 4th.
I think beat a dead horse on that. I'm not going to jump on that one here. So Jeremy Howard here at Weisberg. I want to see Alfred Collins make a jump and hope he pushes Ojimo. Ojimo's pushing Collins at this particular point. Last time I checked, I believe Ojimo was running with the ones. I think Collins was right behind him, but you're probably going to see probably these guys on the field at the same time at some particular point because of the rotation of the defensive line and trying to keep guys obviously going and But at the end of the day, Ojimo is my breakout player. If you want to see a guy, I'm just kind of just put it out here now. I think Ojimo, just like Joseph Asai did last year, when it comes to NFL draft and seeing someone move really, really, really fast up the draft boards, Ojimo is going to be your guy this year, just like Joseph Asai was last year. Just my thought. Based on his explosiveness in his speed and what he's going to be able to do with on defense and for some NFL football team.
I'm going to promote real quick. There's 111 folks in here. Don't know what the likes are. please hit the like button because I'm seeing a lot of new names. Jason Stanley, George Stackle, Gene Ward, a lot of brand new names. If there are new folks in here that haven't ever watched our program or haven't ever commented in our program, the chat is live tonight. Like, I'm excited. I'm fired up. 2 weeks or 3 weeks away from the season, probably 1 week away from a quarterback decision from Coach Sarkisian. They told us they're going to start prepping for Louisiana 2 weeks out. So in my mind, that decision is probably going to be made next Saturday, Sunday, or Monday as you start preparing for Louisiana. But get fired up. There's 62 likes. That's what Wes says. Get that thing up to 110. There's 110 folks in here. Let us know if it's your first time in this chat. Tell us where you're contacting us from, what city you represent. We're fired up. You should be too.
Yeah. So real quick, Kobe Harris here. Shout out to Clinton. Shout out to Clinton Jeremy for predicting Byron Murphy would be a baller. He's from our alma mater, DeSoto, Texas. So you can't go wrong with grabbing a guy out of DeSoto, Texas. Just our thoughts.
Yeah, I watched every playoff game. Again, I'm from live in Coppers Cove. Their first round matchup was against Khalil Shoemaker. I watched him play that football game. I thought he was better than Shamar Turner, more productive than Shamar Turner, who was the 5-star recruit from A&M, who played on the same defensive line. And then I watched. We have a subscription to watch Texas high school sports. So DeSoto is always where we go first if it's a Friday night game. So we got plenty of film, plenty of time to watch. Byron Murphy. We weren't breaking any new news stories. He's exactly as advertised.
Again, if you would have put 2 inches, 3 inches on Byron Murphy, they would probably had 2 5-stars on that defensive line in Shamar Turner and Byron Murphy, man, because those guys are nasty. And Jeremy will tell you that Byron Murphy outplayed Shamar Turner
and I won't be lying. I don't know that they both would have been 5-stars, but if Byron Murphy's 6'4", like Shamar Turner is, he's a top 25 player. He is probably competing with JT Tuimalau to be the best defensive lineman in the country. If he's 6'4" with his motor and his ability to get off the ball, he is a top 25 recruit, not just a 5-star. He's probably competing for being the best defensive lineman in that class. And he will play early. And he will be productive early, just like Hayden Connor. We're talking about guys that we feel will play early, and I'm excited. I'm excited because, again, this coaching staff told you, regardless of classification, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, if you're the best guy, you're going to play. And so you're liable to see these guys really early on the field. Vincente Gonzalez joined us from Iowa, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just seen that. Got George Dackow from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, near Tulsa. Who else we got? We got Vicente Gonzalez, Hookem from Britt, Iowa.
Yeah,
I don't know what Britt, Iowa is.
That game against Spring, the Spring Lions kind of run a 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and so Byron really couldn't get off the field that game because he's an interior pass rusher. That's exactly what he is. He's Aaron Donald. Like, he's going to push the pocket. Where you worry about Byron was his ability to stop the run interior because, again, he's a little bit smaller than most Coborns and Sweats. But he stood up against that Spring Lions have a talented offensive line group. And he held his own against double teams and was able to run stuff. And I think that's really where he probably came on the radar for Power 5 programs like the University of Texas and said, hey, this kid can do everything. He already had the interior pass rush skills, I would never say Aaron Donald, but that kind of motor and that kind of quick twitch. But when he shut down Spring's running game, I'm telling you, he's on another level, and these kids have already recognized it.
And he looks like a grown man already. Go look at his pictures, man. He's a grown man.
He's already classified. You talk about Moro Jomo and how he was a 17-year-old freshman. He's already classified as a junior. Yeah. Like, as far as his studies, like, he's already done. Like, he's already a junior as far as his academics. So he's probably gonna. That's what Colleen was asking me. She's like, "What does he do when he graduates pretty much as a sophomore or early in his junior year?" I'm like, he'll probably jump in a grad program, but at the same time, if he doesn't, he'll still have those 4 years of eligibility. He'll just be concentrating on football. So imagine that. You know what I mean? That you're able to concentrate on football year round.
So I just want to go back, since we're talking about defense and how excited we are about some of these guys that are playing defense this year. There was a reason that Steve Sarkisian went and got Pete Kwiatkowski. And the reason is because he wants him to be able to give him the toughest looks that he could possibly give him right now so that he can prepare his offense to move forward this year. And I think, like Jeremy said earlier, Pete Kwiatkowski probably had a hell of a game plan for that offense, and Steve Sarkisian's seen it on multiple occasions. But at the same time, Steve Sarkisian was going to put, his own spin on the offense to make sure these guys to make these guys work for every yard they were going to get. I think they went 6 drives, no first downs. We're defensive guys, man. We're defensive guys, and then I think if the defense shows up each and every week and you can play complementary football with what we think the offense can do when they put it together, I think the sky's the limit for this group.
Correction, Johnny. Let me pop up this one. I'm going to Wes. Not Sam. Clint's Nala. That's Clint's dog, not mine.
Yeah,
Sam's out.
Yeah, that's my puppy. That's my puppy tonight, Johnny.
So, Wes, here's a scenario to consider. Should Texas start recruiting and playing like an SEC team right now? Wait and do whatever is necessary to win the Big 12, if that makes sense. I think they're already recruiting. I don't know about the game plan. I think Sark, again, like Clint said, Sark and PK are going to come up with the best game plan to beat each team each week. But I will say, when you look at their last 3 commitments, or the kids that have signed, or the kid Champ Lewis that we interviewed this week, the kid Owen Carey that we did a commitment corner on, we talk about that, like long, rangy corners in Champ Lewis. We talk about that size, speed of Owen Carey, because if you look at Maurice Blackwell, DJ Harris, and the guys that we recruited last year as linebackers, they were 6'2" to 215 pounds. Now you're getting, with Owen Carey and Anthony Jones, you're getting that same speed, but they're getting them at 235 to 245. So look at this recruiting class that, since Sark got to campus, the kind of guys they're recruiting. I think that's the case. You want, and we've talked about this, what that SEC model looks like is that ability to cover at that 240, 250-pound linebacker, that long, rangy corner that's 6'2", 6'3", like Pat Surtain, like Diggs. When I think about Alabama, the 6'1", 6'2", 6'3 guys, Trayvon Diggs, Pat Surtain, and those guys that could cover. They came from Alabama. They know what that athlete looks like. Bo Davis coached there. He coached here and in the NFL. Kyle Flood coached at Alabama and in the NFL. So, yeah, I think they're already recruiting to that SEC-type body and skill set. I don't know about the game plan this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was kind of reading the comments. I'm not sure if you said it, but again, and Sarkisian said it on multiple occasions. They're not going to recruit stars. They're going to recruit to scheme fit. And y'all got to remember that, man. Sometimes yes, if you miss out on a guy like Bryce Anderson, Denver Harris, those guys are can't miss guys. We've said it multiple times on this show. Devin Campbell's, the Perkins, and a lot of these guys are moving east to that school out east because what they've been able to do over the last couple of years with a coach that's won a championship, national championship. So don't mistake that. They're doing things out there, man. They're grabbing these recruits, but at the same time, they're not going to recruit stars. They're going to recruit to scheme fit. And I think I got to kind of tell myself that sometimes too, because I get a little amped up sometimes when I feel like we missed on a 4-star, and then all of a sudden I feel like you got to go. You're going to grab someone, but until you watch that film and you see someone, and you got to think that, like Jeremy always says, if the safety coach, Blake Gideon, thinks that this guy deserves an offer, it's going to go through Pete Kwiatkowski. Pete Kwiatkowski's got to sell it to damn Steve Sarkisian before they even give the guy an opportunity to accept an offer. So, and to me, it's you got an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, or an offensive coordinator and a head coach and Steve Sarkisian, and a defensive coordinator, Pete Kwiatkowski, that have been around a lot of places.
And you're talking about the coach recruiters, but it's really got to get through Billy Glasscock and his player personnel department.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because they're treating it, like we said, like a NFL player personnel department. They're going to have some people that are involved in the transfer portal and looking at college players. They're going to have some guys that are looking at high school players and recruits and shoving film in front of Jeff Banks or Kyle Flood or Bo Davis or Blake Gideon and saying, hey, I think this kid can play. And then, like you said, then they got to camp them. They got to film study them. And then, like you said, there's a vetting process for those scholarship offers. They're just not offering a kid just because another kid turned them down just to appease guys like me and Clint. If they don't think the guy can play, I guarantee he's not going to get a scholarship offer.
Wes Bearden, man, you're up here tonight, man. Sooner we have an SEC start date, the better recruiting will be. To me, I agree with that to a sense, but winning on the field this year is going to make a bigger impact than us naming a date in which we're going to the SEC, bar none. We have to win this year on the field. We got to be able to show the Evan Stewarts that Xavier Worthy can come out and do things, or Joshua Moore can come do these things. You got to be able to show an impact on defense, both on the front and on the defensive backside, to get some of these defensive backs that you may have missed out on in order to get, some of these 5 stars, defensive linemen to come. You got to be able to show. And I think the most important thing right now is winning on the field and developing guys this year that you can send off to the NFL. I think the date for the SEC comes really third to that. Because I think if you get those two things, you're going to set yourself up pretty good on the recruiting trail. And then I think that SEC start date is just a cherry on top after you've been able to win this year.
Yeah, winning development. We haven't changed our tune since we started this channel approximately 14 months ago. What brings recruiting to the University of Texas is winning football games and development. Again, that campus is beautiful. That education is beautiful. That city is great. But unless you're winning football games and putting people in the NFL, again, especially when you're talking about 4- and 5-star guys coming out of high school who have that expectation, and they have other coaches at Alabama, Texas A&M, Ohio State, and at USC telling them that, you have to deliver on the football field and, again, put folks in the NFL more than the SEC. Again, the SEC is another notch, but if you're not winning, then why would they not just go to another SEC team that's 40 miles east of them? So I think all that stuff feeds each other.
What do we got here? We got a prediction up here. You about to grab something? Or am I grabbing something?
No,
I'll grab something. TFT says 10-2, very reasonable prediction. I wouldn't be mad at that. I say 11-1 if all things click. These aren't burnt orange glasses. I just really see this team being much better. You probably listen to multiple shows where we talk about 10-2. And I always try to say, hey, it can always change. And the reason I say that is not for you to come when we do our a season preview podcast, which we have game by game. We'll do one game by game, talking about how many starters are coming back from each team, what the coaches look like, what the schemes look like, so on and so forth. We'll kind of get into the details with that. I think that's going to be in and around September 1st. I think it is when we're going to try to push that. We don't like to give dates, but it's going to be around that date, that sometime around that date. But yeah, 10-2 is very reasonable. It's very reasonable based on, talent alone that you currently have on the team. It's really just putting the pieces together, getting the guys in the right positions, and developing these football players to show up every weekend and play to the level in which they can play. And I think that's what you're going to have. I think this all gas, no brakes mantra with Steve Sarkisian trying to push the gas as much as he can, trying to score every possible time he can get out there. And then, obviously PK with that defense, that really, really aggressive defense that is going to try to shut these offenses down. I definitely think 10-2 is reasonable. It's definitely a reasonable prediction.
I would definitely think or ask Colby who he has, because again, we've talked about our losses, and like Clint said, we're going to get in depth and closer to the football season, we'll know exactly if Josh Moore's shoulder is still bothering him, if Troy O'Meara's become more productive, what that 2 deep looks like for us, what that 2 deep looks like for everybody else. But I would like to know who Colby has as that one loss. Is it Oklahoma? Is it Iowa State? Really like to know. And then I need Addison to probably be a little bit more specific, because Addison's new, so I definitely want to address that. New to the first time I've seen him. How many conference titles can Texas win as newcomers? And again, we won the cup that recognizes the most prolific athletic program within a year. I can't remember the name of it right off my top of my head because we haven't won it in 25 years because it was won by Stanford. But if he's
Director's Cup.
Director's Cup. Thank you. If he's asking that first year we joined the SEC, I'd have to know exactly where we were with each program. If he's talking about Texas winning the SEC title the year they go in, again, you'd have to tell me who's the starting quarterback, how many we have on the cheap deep that are returning, and what everybody else's team looks like. I would need more information, Addison, but I appreciate you checking in and asking that question.
We're talking about Spanish cows or something in the comments box, man. Talking about first Spanish settlement in Louisiana, domesticated cattle from Spain. We got all kinds of things happening in the comments box.
I'm pulling Greg up too because I don't know if I've seen Greg before either. Greg Hookham. The practice at random times to account for time change. I don't know the rationale behind it, but I think it's next level thinking. I think if you give them a practice date the night before and say, hey, guess what? We just got off at 2:30. Guess what? We're going to go again at 8:30. It allows them to prepare their body. Hey, I need to get to bed a little bit early. I need to make sure I rehydrate. I need to make sure I eat right. It allows them, to as a soldier. And somebody asked a little bit earlier what branch I was in when we referenced, Clint's retired Army, 22 years. I'm still serving on active duty for the next couple of years, and I'll be retired just like Scott Sheridan, who said he's 58 and dang near retired. I'll be retired in 4 years. But I think that's that next level thinking, because when you take soldiers out to the field, you want to wake them up at all hours. You want to test their mettle in certain, you don't want to let them sleep at a certain time. You let them go a little bit longer without meals, only to test them, their resiliency and their strength and their mental as part of being a soldier. But I think that's similar to what Steve Sarkisian does. He makes them think about preparation. Like, what time do I need to get up? What time do I need to go to bed? What time do I need to, how many gallons of water or liters of water do I need to take in today? That's the way I would think about it as a ball player.
No, and it's funny because I was actually thinking about that in the car today because, he's talking about, this whole mental piece, not just a physical piece, but the mental piece. And when, I live in San Antonio, and one of my last jobs was, to take care of 400 combat medics for 16 weeks. And what you want to do is you want to induce stress, right? Induce stress to a point when it's time to react. Your stress is limited, and less thinking, more reacting versus stressing. And I think that's where that comes to, as I was thinking about it, it's like, should I, if it comes up tonight, should I equal it to going through really basic training as a soldier in the Army to fall camp? And you can almost say the same thing, because you got to adapt to change really, really fast. And I think that's what they're doing. They're like, hey, like Jeremy said, it becomes more mental. Let's make these guys a little bit stronger mentally. But at the same time, there may be that piece where, you got 11 o'clock game. Let's get up. Let's get in the habit of getting up at, early in the morning, 9:30, get prepared for 11 o'clock game. Or, hey, like he's talking today, like, they got to be prepared September 4th for 100-degree temperature in DKR against Louisiana. Today was the best way to see it, because they came out at 12:30. It was damn near 100 degrees. It was hot as hell. I tried to cut grass this morning at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was cutting the lawnmower off. Cutting the lawnmower off, coming here and drink water and sit on the couch. Still hydrating. But I think that's what it comes to. I think it's not just physically preparing these guys for the stresses of football season, but mentally preparing them as well. I think that's really where it comes from. Not to get long-winded, but I get excited about things like that, though.
The previous two coaching staffs may have been doing this, but it wasn't publicized because they didn't take questions like he's willing to take. They don't have conversations like he's willing to have. Like today, when he's saying, hey, my receivers are struggling, my quarterbacks were struggling. But again, I got guys who were coming in here talking about, the offensive line didn't play great. Well, guess what? Your defensive line did. Your receivers can't catch the ball because Deshaun Jameson, Josh Thompson, and Keaton Crawford and Jahdae Barron were locking them down because he said that. And we needed that because, again, if you watch our defensive back podcast, we talked about them being the 109th ranked team in the country as far as defense, passing defense. We need that area to be improved. That's the area that we need most improved. So, yes, is it because Josh Moore's dealing with the shoulder? And I won't keep beating that dead horse. But to say one unit's not doing well means that probably the other unit was. So I'm not going to say we're not going to win this or that or the other. And this is where it's coming from. My comments, as I saw that comment, I didn't pop it up. But go ahead, Clint.
Yeah, and Wiz, I know this is at Kobe Harris. We aren't winning 10 games. The O-line isn't great. The wide receivers are inconsistent, and the O-line is struggling. I can tell you we were 13 points for winning 10 games last year with a coaching staff that couldn't get out of their own way. And I'll kind of leave it at that. You were 13 points from winning 10 games, 9 games, whatever it was, with a coach that was playing not to lose versus winning. This coaching staff is totally different. Yeah, are there things that we have to work on as far as the O-line goes? Our offensive line, when it comes to run blocking, is probably one of the best in the country. When we come to pass blocking and picking up stunts, absolutely horrendous. But those are the things that Kyle Flood has to adjust and fix. Those are the things that Steve Sarkisian needs to take as a weakness and cover it up. That's what the last coaching staff didn't do. They kept consistently run, pass, run, pass, run, pass. They kept running the same plays over and over again, and they never made adjustments. You have to make adjustments in a football. You have to make adjustments in life. You can't keep calling the same play against the same defense, think it's going to work because you think it's going to work. Same thing with go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
No, you can't keep pounding your head in the wall over and over and over again and not being productive. You hit the nail right on the head. And when you aren't productive, you can't say it was because a COVID season. Again, it was COVID season, yes, but it was COVID season for everybody. You know, we had to put in new systems. Well, you made the decision to fire all your coordinators, you know, the year before when you had Orlando and Tim Beck, and then you brought in Mike Yurcich and Chris Ash. Those were self-inflicted. You know what I mean? Like, you can't use those as excuses if those were decisions that you made. So, like, you're absolutely right. Again, I'm not going to make any drastic changes in my predictions or my thoughts based off of scrimmage against each other. Again, if we go back against Louisiana and we don't play well, then yes, that may change the way I feel about this football team, this coaching staff. Again, I still wouldn't be rash off of one football game and one performance, but at the same time, I would be more measured in what I say and more calculated on how I feel based on another opponent, not my battle buddies.
Exactly.
You pulled it up the same time I did.
Yeah. Said Coach Benzer couldn't manage the game to save his life and didn't use his talent properly. Yeah, again, I'm going to tell you, the best player is going to play. Not going to be a lot of rotations. Steve Sarkisian is going to put the best players on the field. There is no X, Y, and Z. He's going to find the best wide receivers to put out there that can create space and catch the ball, and he's going to scheme one of them open. And I'm telling you, we're not Alabama. Alabama's on a whole different level. But if you go back and look at that national championship game, we talk about it all the time. You got to see what you had the best wide receiver in all of college football who just won a Heisman Trophy, and they couldn't figure out how to keep him off a linebacker. Ohio State could not figure out how to keep Devontae Smith off a linebacker, man, and they kept doing it over and over and over again. So that's what you have different in this coaching staff is they're going to figure out ways to be successful and not continuously do the same thing over and over again, knowing it's not working.
And I definitely understand your rationale for your thinking, but again, we're not playing Louisiana tomorrow. And again, like Clint just said, I think we'll find ourselves a package, whether it's 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, or using different guys in the slot. I just believe that one position group struggling is not going to kill this offense. They're going to be able to run the football. If they are able to run the football, that's going to force more people in the box, and somebody's going to get open. They're going to get schemed open, and we're going to make plays. Again, we're going against our own guys. I'm not going to – but I definitely understand your worry factor because I talked about it a little bit earlier. The wide receivers are probably my position group that I'm the most worried about, but currently it's at a 5-6. It's not at a 9-10 at this point because September 4th is not tomorrow. And I got to trust that Josh Moore will be as productive as he was last year when he caught 10 touchdowns in 10 games. And I got to feel like that Middleton will start making plays like a 5-star recruit that he was, and that Troy O'Meara will end up being some semblance of what we talked about him being last fall. And so if this is rock bottom, and I know this coach believes this, that we're going to go up. We're not going to go down. And right now my worry factor is at a 5-6.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, want to talk about, just want to push some things out real quick. I think we're about, hour 8 into this. My dog's starting to act crazy over there. If y'all can't hear her, she's starting to act crazy. She's Great Pyrenees. She's pretty loud. And she can become a disaster really, really fast. But hey, we're about 14 likes, it looks like, from 100. It'd be nice to get 100 likes before we get off here. We got 111 people currently watching. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. I can tell you, I think last week alone, I think we put out maybe 4 or 5, videos last week. It would have been, I think 6 if we would have done the live on Monday. Our game plan now is to, and sometimes these things change. Our game plan on Monday is to also do a live. I think we're supposed to have Nick Harris on here from 247 talking to us on Monday. And then we got some other things planned next week. And I think we're 3 weeks, exactly 3 weeks today from the first game, man. So things are going to start ramping up. Then you got a second scrimmage next Saturday. And then really it's who does Sarkisian pick as his quarterback and start prepping for Louisiana. And But really, really, really excited. So we hit that 100, by the way, Jeremy, really fast, man. I don't know. Maybe that's what we need to say is, when we start the channel, we want to get to 100 likes because they did that really, 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 really fast.
But he's been going back and forth with us. I felt like he was new. I hadn't seen him because I've never seen the joystick emoji down there or whatever that is, lightning bolt. I'm not exactly sure, but great comments, great dialogue, and that's what this channel is known for, is these interactive lives. And again, as we transfer over to our podcast, the TPPN, these things will keep happening. These lives will keep happening on YouTube. Everything that we're going to put on the podcast will be on YouTube, but again, it's going to give you an opportunity to, if you can't catch us on YouTube and you want to catch us in the car via Spotify, via Google, via Apple, you can catch audio versions of what we talk about here. I don't know if this will translate as well, but it's still dialogue. We appreciate you, MuttWiz, for popping on and hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. Much appreciated.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, hey, more to follow. I think me and Jeremy are going to take tomorrow off. Right. And then we'll be back on Monday on a live, and then we'll kind of push some content. We'll kind of figure out where our content's going to go from there. I can tell you we have tight ends and running backs that we've already recorded. Obviously, they're in the production process right now. Those will be going out. I think those are the last two that we have. We've already done a quarterback. There's no reason to do a quarterback at this particular point. But we'll push those out this week, and then kind of see where things go, man. Looks like they're having open practice on Wednesday. We'll see what the comments that come out of there are.
One last one before we jump. And we talk about this in our tight ends, and I only pull this up because Jesse's always in here talking basketball. Love having him in here. Can we see Sanders lining up at wide receiver? I know he's big, but we need a playmaker. He can. Helm can. Davis can. I really look at Davis. Juan Davis is a L.J. Humphrey clone comp with that 6'4", 223-pounder. I see him as my flex more than I see Sanders, but absolutely. You can definitely see Sanders out there in that big slot role, H-back, whatever you want to call them, because Sark puts his tight ends in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Conventional tight end, H-back, and then out in the slot.
And Sanders played Sanders played outside wide. He was an outside wide receiver in high school as well. So he definitely knows, what he needs to do out there against those smaller cornerbacks. Seen it at multiple times at a pretty high level here in the state of Texas, all the way up to that state championship game. So he definitely has the ability. He definitely has the athletic ability to do that. But yeah, I definitely we need to see quite a bit of Jatavian Sanders this year.
And I'll take a 65-yard bomb. That means you're in field goal range the moment you get across the midfield stripe. So, yeah, looking for him to be more consistent last year. Clint brought it to my attention. I thought he played really, really well last year, but he missed several that he normally makes. But appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Again, hour and 15 minutes full of fun. Our anxiety, not our anxiety, because we weren't really worried about the scrimmage, but not worried about the scrimmage in a total meltdown mode. But at the same time, you want everybody to play well. You want everybody to be doing good going towards the season. And this has been a lot of fun. We haven't done it since last Friday. We took a week off of lives.
Yeah, week off lives. Yeah.
And we're glad you're here. We're glad you enjoyed the podcast. You want to give the outro and let me go cook some salmon?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, he's got to get off and cook, and I don't know what I have to do over there, but I'm probably going to relax a little bit. But hey, you can find us on Twitter at Texas Football Talk, on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, and on Instagram at Texas Football Talk. Please hit that like button if you have not hit that subscribe button, because I think we have quite a few guys on here that probably listen for a while. Maybe we just haven't seen them. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And hit that notification bell so you know when we're putting out content. It means a lot to us. And we'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.